The Knicks have made their move, or perhaps more accurately, the move was made for them. Malik Beasley, the sharpshooter everyone has been buzzing about, has made it clear he is not going to accept the veteran minimum. And Stephen A. Smith, speaking on his program, didn't hesitate to emphasize that point. He said in English, very directly, "Beasley is not some discount shooter you can just scoop up for pennies on the dollar. The man shot over 41% from three last season on volume. You don't just let that kind of weapon sit on a vet minimum. Somebody is going to pay him, and the Knicks simply don't have the money to be that team." And that right there is the heart of the situation. New York had interest. They kept tabs. They were waiting to see if somehow the market would play in their favor. But Stephen A. reminded everyone that the NBA is full of contenders desperate for perimeter shooting. He pointed out that teams like Miami, Oklahoma City, and even Brooklyn are sitting there with more financial flexibility than New York, and each one of those organizations knows exactly how valuable a player like Beasley can be in a playoff environment. As Stephen A. put it, "You think Pat Riley down in Miami is going to let Beasley sit there if he can get him? You think Sam Presti, with all those young guns in OKC, wouldn't jump at the chance to add that kind of shooting? Please." That's why New York never had the leverage here. The Knicks can try to sell opportunity, a starting role, the chance to compete for an Eastern Conference Finals run. But Stephen A. hammered home the reality. Money talks, and New York just doesn't have it. He said it plainly. All they've got is the vet minimum. That's it. And Beasley's camp knows he can get more, so why in the world would he settle for less? And so, like it or not, the Knicks are forced to pivot. Whether you want to frame it as a decision or a reality they were backed into, the Malik Beasley sweepstakes are over for New York. That brings us to the next point Stephen A. raised, and this one is fascinating. He said the Knicks are already shifting gears, focusing their attention on another proven veteran, Malcolm Brogdon. And the way Stephen A. broke it down was clear. Brogdon is a former sixth man of the year. He's not some scrub. He's somebody who, if you get him at the vet minimum, even with the injuries, that is highway robbery. That is a steal. Stephen A. acknowledged the concerns fans have about Brogdon's durability. He didn't shy away from it, but he contextualized it. You're not asking him to play 35 minutes a night. You're not asking him to carry the franchise. You're asking him to back up Jalen Brunson for maybe 20 minutes a game, stabilize the second unit, hit a few shots, play smart defense, and make sure the offense doesn't fall apart when Brunson is off the floor. If that's the role, if that's the expectation, then Brogdon can absolutely deliver. And that's the exact kind of perspective the Knicks front office is operating with. Beasley priced himself out. Fine, move on. Stephen A. framed it perfectly. New York isn't desperate. They're not going to overpay. They're disciplined, they've stayed patient, and they know that depth at guard is critical if they're going to keep pace in the East. That's why Brogdon's name is now on their radar. And according to Stephen A., it's a move that makes all the sense in the world. Stephen A. Smith didn't sugarcoat it when talking about Malcolm Brogdon. He flat out said in English, "Look, aside from the injury concern, you can't tell me anything else negative about this man's game, because there's nothing else to say." And he's absolutely right. If you go down the list of qualities you want in a veteran guard, shooting, playmaking, defense, leadership, Brogdon checks every single one of those boxes. Stephen A. emphasized the point by comparing him to other names floating around this free agency market. He admitted, is his shooting as elite as Malik Beasley's? No. But is he a better overall player than somebody like Landry Shamet? Absolutely. And that's why the Knicks are right to have him on their radar. Stephen A. went even deeper into it. He explained that Brogdon doesn't just give you spot-up shooting, he gives you intelligence on the floor. He gives you the ability to handle the ball, control pace, initiate offense when Brunson is resting, and on top of that, he's a guard who plays real defense. In today's NBA, that combination at the vet minimum is almost unheard of, and Stephen A. hammered home that exact point. If New York pulls this off, that's a steal, period. A player like Brogdon for the vet minimum is one of the best value signings in the league. Now, the conversation naturally shifted to other options. And Stephen A. didn't avoid Landry Shamet's name either. He brought him up, acknowledging that the Knicks are clearly considering him too. Shamet is a known commodity, a floor spacer, a role player who has proven he can knock down big shots in playoff moments. Stephen A. pointed out that Shamet has bounced around the league, playing for several different contenders, yet his role has always been the same: spread the floor, hit timely shots, and stay ready when the moment calls. That kind of consistency, even in limited minutes, is exactly the type of skill set that New York could use to stabilize its bench rotation. And Stephen A. explained why that makes sense for New York. He said, "If you miss out on Beasley, which the Knicks are going to, because Beasley's not taking the vet minimum from anybody, then you look at guys like Shamet, who can fill that role. He's not Beasley, but he's a shooter, he's reliable, and he'll accept the deal that New York can actually give." Stephen A. made it clear that while Shamet may not bring the same level of scoring punch or athleticism, he does bring professionalism, the willingness to embrace a role, and the ability to deliver under pressure without needing a high volume of touches. On Malik Beasley, Stephen A. was crystal clear. He's gone. He's not signing for the vet minimum. He knows his value, he knows the market, and someone like OKC or Miami, teams that have the money and are legitimate contenders, they're going to give him what he wants. New York can't do that. He doubled down on the idea that Beasley is firmly out of the Knicks' financial range, pointing out that the veteran guard had one of his most productive seasons shooting the ball and is not in a position where he has to settle for a minimum contract. He even floated the idea that Beasley might end up back with Detroit, depending on how their cap flexibility shakes out. The Pistons, Stephen A. reminded, could still be active in the market and have the type of cap maneuverability to make something happen if they feel Beasley fits their direction. But the bottom line was the same. The Knicks are out of that race. As Stephen A. emphasized, Beasley's market will take him elsewhere, and New York's front office knows it. That's why pivoting to more realistic options like Shamet is not just logical, it's necessary if they want to shore up depth without compromising their financial flexibility. That leaves the front office with two very real, very practical options: Malcolm Brogdon or Landry Shamet. Stephen A. said he leans toward Brogdon because of the versatility and the higher ceiling, even if the injuries make you nervous, but he also made it clear he wouldn't be mad at Shamet either. Between the two, I'd take Brogdon, but if you want Shamet instead, I can't argue too hard. Both guys can help. Both guys fill a need, and both are miles better than standing pat and doing nothing. And that's the real point he drove home. New York doesn't need to overthink this. They've already lost out on Beasley. Ben Simmons? That's not happening. So what's left is simple. Add Brogdon or Shamet, get value for the vet minimum, and make sure this roster has the depth it needs to compete in the East. So Knicks fans, that's where things stand right now. Stephen A. made it perfectly clear. This isn't a franchise stumbling around anymore. The Knicks are sitting in a strong position. They're showing patience, and whichever way they decide to move, it's going to be a calculated decision that fits the bigger picture. Whether that means Malcolm Brogdon, with his steady hand, playoff experience, and ability to guard multiple positions, or Landry Shamet, who provides that quick trigger from deep and helps stretch the floor, the front office is weighing every angle carefully. Stephen A. stressed that these aren't just names being tossed around for headline. These are players who fill specific needs, and that's why this discussion matters. Brogdon would give the Knicks a secondary ball handler and defensive toughness, while Shamet would add spacing that's always crucial in today's NBA. Both represent different kinds of help, but both fit into the vision of building a sustainable contender. But as always, the conversation doesn't end with Stephen A. It shifts back to you, the fan. This is New York, after all, and every move sparks debate. Who do you trust more in crunch time wearing orange and blue? Would you lean toward Malcolm Brogdon's poise, leadership, and two-way consistency? Or do you value Landry Shamet's ability to instantly shift the geometry of the floor with his outside shooting? Stephen A. gave his perspective loud and clear, but the Knicks' future is always going to be a dialogue between the team and its fan base. So I'll leave it with you. What's the smarter move? What's the next step for this organization that's finally turning the corner?